Welcome, everyone. I'm going to turn things over to Greg Reck.
All right, welcome everyone. And Strawberry, do we have a sense if everybody is logged in, or should we wait, or are we good?
I think we'll see people trickle in the next few minutes, but we've got a good chunk of people here.
Okay. All right, so there's a couple of things I'll let everybody know about. First, if you should open your chat window in your Zoom window so you can see. This is a great way for everyone to sort of provide feedback, talk to each other, or write to each other, and provide a semblance of community while having to do this remotely again. The second important announcement is that not only is it 5 o'clock somewhere, it's 5 o'clock right here. And there have been numerous studies that conclusively prove that there is a direct relation between how funny I am and how much you drink. So, duly noted. I'm just kind of biding time here, so we make sure we get everybody in. All right, so welcome to the 2021 MPA Award presentation. And unfortunately, we have to do it remotely again this year. We are on Zoom. Thanks in advance to Strawberry Mosney, who is facilitating this for us and keeping everything going smoothly. So to set the tone, I'm going to start with a little song. Why not? Because we're still waiting for people. Sorry, I should stand up. We sold. All right. We'll give it a shot. I haven't picked up a guitar much in the past 6 months, but that hasn't stopped me before. I got the Delta blues, the Delta variant blues. Lord knows we paid our dues, just trying to make it through. It would have really been great to see you all in one room, but damn, COVID won't abate. So here we are, still stuck on Zoom. We're all in the same boat, one that's barely afloat, chasing after COVID quotes, while all still working remote. We believe that facts matter, while the truth is being battered by the social media chatter. Hey, we still got our data. I got the Delta blues from all your front page news, not to mention your editorial views. Won't somebody call it truce? I got the Delta blues, the Delta variant blues. That's that. Okay. So you have no idea how incredibly difficult it is to do this with very little feedback. But there is one other thing that I need to take care of at the onset. So I have read on Facebook, and I know it's true because it's on Facebook, that the Delta variant is originating out of Dell computers. Now, I know some of you are using PCs. I'm a little worried about your PC passing a virus onto my computer. So I'm going to do the rest of the show with this down if that doesn't, bother anyone too much. This is actually my new getup for going out and shooting, because not only do I have a face shield, but when I run across someone whose opinion that I don't agree with, I just put the headphones down and I don't even have to do the la 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 la. Ooh. Okay. If any of you are attending this awards presentation for the first time and you don't realize that I don't take myself very seriously, then that's how it goes. Okay. So what I would like to do, since we were not able to meet in person and do the Hall of Fame inductees this morning or this afternoon at lunch. So I am going to talk about those a little bit, and I will share my screen and start the presentation. All right. So, unfortunately with this, I don't get to see the chat window. Okay, this year's Hall of Fame inductees, hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to open up the chat window. And it's not happening. I'll work on that later. Okay, this year's Hall of Fame inductees is Dot Roderick, Dieter Bradbury, and Judy Meyer. Dot Roderick was one of the first women advertising executives in the newspaper industry. She worked for 43 years for Guy Gannett Publishing, starting in 1937 with the Morning Sentinel, and she moved on to the Portland Press Herald in 1940. She became the national ad manager in 1956 and working with advertisers and advertising agencies throughout the United States. Dot retired in 1980, and she passed away last year in 2020 at the age of 101. Dieter Bradbury has been a force in Maine journalism for 4 decades. I've had the pleasure of working with Dieter at the Press Herald for 2.5 of those. He started working for the Press Herald's afternoon paper, the Evening Express, as a part-timer in 1980. 2 years later, he became a full-time reporter for the Press Herald, covering the night cops beat, and then later becoming the environment reporter. Dieter then went on to the assignment desk, served a short stint as business editor, and in 2012, he was named deputy managing editor, overseeing the news desks, directing specialty beats, and political reporting. For the past 10 years, Dieter has directed the State House, political and election coverage, and has overseen some of the newspaper's most important in-depth projects. And Dieter just recently retired back in September. Judy Meyer has the Sun Journal, and more recently with the Kennebec Journal and Morning Sentinel. Judy began working for the Sun Journal as a freelancer out of the Norway Bureau. Judy, you never told me you were a foreign correspondent. That's awesome. To get your start. Oh, sorry, wrong Norway. In 1996, she was hired full-time to run that bureau. In 1998, she was hired as editorial page editor. 5 years later, she was named daytime managing editor. In April 2016, she was named the Sun Journal's executive editor. Today, Judy is responsible for overseeing the Sun Journal, as well as a half-dozen weekly newspaper in the Sun Media's Western Maine coverage area. She also serves as the executive editor of the Kennebec Journal and the Morning Sentinel. And Judy is known as a fierce advocate for First Amendment rights, and she was instrumental in the formation of the Maine Freedom of Information Coalition, a group that's been improving open meeting and public record laws in Maine. Okay. And from here, we now, Strawberry will direct us to Linda Clancy, outgoing Maine Press Association president.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thanks, Greg, that helmet that beats the sombrero. And that was a great song. We'll sing it next year, I hope. I'm going to give you all just a real brief, hopefully brief, rundown of the state of MPA. And I wanted to thank you all for attending the annual conference during year 2 of these very strange times. Yet here we are, congregation of stronger, wiser, and more resilient news people, all of whom I'm really proud to know. Year 2020, 2021 for MPA continued on a productive and constructive path despite the pandemic and its economic reverberations. Membership has grown to include 45 newspapers and digital news sites, including our most recent members, Harpswell Anchor and Spectrum News Maine. We are pleased to report that participation in the 2021 Better Newspaper Contest increased by 6%, with the number of entries increasing by 15%, making for a more robust competition than over the past several years, which is great. This translated to a 125% increase of revenue over 2020 for MPA, as we all celebrate and showcase the excellent work of the Maine press. In Augusta, at the State House, the MPA Legislative Committee worked really hard from late December through June, advocating for Maine's press and its core mission to promote and protect the principles of freedom of speech and the public's right to know, and advocate on behalf of the newspaper industry. We testified in support of several bills and testified against even more bills, all of them significant to the Fourth Estate as we keep working hard on many fronts. If you're interested in knowing more about them, please let us know and we'll send you the list. Most vehemently, we rallied the troop of publishers to help testify against an act to promote efficiency in county and municipal government, which would have stripped public notices from newspapers and instead allowed county governments and municipalities to post them on their websites. This was not the first bill or first such bill to appear before a legislative committee that would threaten the financial well-being of newspapers, nor will it, we fear, be the last. Helping accomplish our work at the Capitol, MPA contracts with Mitchell Tardy Jackson, a lobbying firm based in Augusta. Knowing, however, the financial pressure our members faced this past year, we renegotiated our contractual terms with Mitchell Tardy Jackson, whose principals reduced our annual contract from $18,000 to $15,300. So that successfully reduced the assessment placed on our member newspapers, most significantly on our member dailies, which carry the bulk of the cost. And while we could not meet in person in 2020, we carried our programming through the year with 2 online workshops, Project Journalism and How to Optimize Maine's Freedom of Access Act, and police reporting. MPA also continued its tradition of supporting the next generation of Maine journalists by awarding $4,000 in scholarships to 3 students at the University of Maine and the University of New England. As we move forward to 2021-2022, we are optimistic that we shall gather again in person in October in Bar Harbor. Until then, the work on behalf of Maine's press continues unabated. And as we end this current MPA year, we say goodbye to 2 valued board members, Jennifer Holmes, Vice President at Bangor Daily News, and Sarah Morley, Operations Manager and Advertising Sales Rep at the Booth Bay Register and Wiscasset Paper. Jennifer served 3 terms on the board, including 1 year as president, presiding over MPA business with a calm, efficient, and clear voice. We shall miss her professionalism and gracious presence. Sarah served one term and is stepping down for personal reasons. She energized the board most recently with amazing organization of our annual scholarship auction. Sarah and her team at the Boothbay Register and Wiscasset paper were instrumental for securing the majority of our silent auction items. The board wishes Jennifer and Sarah well in their future endeavors and hopes they remember that there always will be a seat at the MPA table for them. We also welcome 2 new board members, journalist Caitlin Andrews, who is with the Bangor Daily News, and Joe Charpentier with the Boothbay Register and Wiscasset paper. And we happily welcome Faith D'Ambrose, managing editor of the Mount Desert Islander, back to the board after a few short years of rest. Thank you to our current board members, Chris Cockett, Ellsworth American, Courtney Spencer, Masthead, Maine, Nick McRae, Times Record, J.W. Oliver, Harpswell Anchor, Linda Verrill, Broadreach, Dan Dinsmore, Spectrum News, Edward French, Quaddy Tides, Marilyn McHugh, Portland Phoenix, and Sindhu Manjas, University of Maine. Thank you, Chris Sobiek, for your ongoing support of MPA and help with the conference, especially with the printing of the award certificates. Strawberry Mojni, you have been an invaluable assist this year, not only with the conference, but with our ongoing remote programming, which is going to be really good this coming year. And Greg, what can we say, but you rise to the occasion every year, no matter the circumstances and how challenging they are. 2 gin and tonics for you. MPA Board of Directors, and especially we thank our Executive Director, Diane Norton, for navigating these strange and unpredictable squalls with a steady, gracious, and always enterprising hand on the tiller. And now I'm going to pass the gavel to Chris Crockett, MPA's incoming president. Good luck, Chris. We've got your back.
Thank you, Linda. And thank you for your dedication to the MPA over this past year. 2021 was not an easy year, and you made it look easy for the rest of us on the board. You left some pretty big shoes to fill, so I might be leaning on you from time to time for some help. I also want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. You know, and if you're like me, yesterday was a pretty emotional day. I'm of course referring to the re-release of Red by Taylor Swift, the 10-minute version of All Too Well and the accompanying short film. You know, that just left me emotionally drained. So it's nice to take a break from all of that and get on with the MPA here tonight. Though in all seriousness, thank you everybody for joining us as the MPA celebrates newspapers, big, small, print, digital. And yes, for the 2nd year in a row, we've had to host this conference virtually, but fingers crossed, next year we'll be able to see each other live and in person and in Bar Harbor. What a great way to kick off a back to normal, back to in person, then in Bar Harbor. So again, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. And I know as much as you guys would like to listen to me for another 15, maybe 20 minutes, I think I'll pass it back over to Greg so we can get to those awards. Thank you, everybody.
Greetings, everyone. I am actually, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. I need to fix a preference setting in Keynote. Sorry for the delay. And scale. And that. Okay, I'll take that off. And what I'm trying to do is kill the presenter display in Keynote because it shows up on my other monitor and I lose the chat window, I lose everything Zoom. So we'll see if this helps. Okay, before I move on to the, there it goes. Before I move on to the talking about the scholarship auction, I do want to let everybody know this year's Hall of Fame inductees, since they could not be inducted in person, will be inducted in Bar Harbor next year at the MPA conference and award presentation. The good news there, I guess, Dieter and Judy, is, you get to be inducted in Bar Harbor instead of the Augusta Civic Center. Not that there's anything wrong with the Augusta Civic Center, but just saying, Bar Harbor might be a little nicer. Okay, we're going to move on to the scholarship auction. The auction it's a silent auction online, and somebody will be throwing a link to the auction in the chat window if they have not already, since I can't see it. Okay, so it wraps up tomorrow. You can bid until noon tomorrow, and there's all sorts of gifts. There are gift cards for food and drink. There are some vacation stays in Boothbay Harbor, Sea Dog tickets, boat rides, all sorts of things. You should go check it out. All the proceeds from the auction benefit the MPA Scholarship Fund, which is integral to MPA's mission of encouraging more young journalists to join the profession. Again, that link should be in the chat window for you to find. And Diane, you might have to add what you told me earlier, because I've already forgotten it. I think we are around $1,000, and the heaviest bidding is happening on 2 jars of honey. This is a perennial favorite, and so don't lose out on a gargantuan mason jar of honey. Keep bidding. And I do believe that when you make a bid, if somebody outbids you, I believe you get an email notification that you've been outbid, so you can stay on top of things. Again, that is happening till noon tomorrow. Another item that's being auctioned off is a signed Stephen King book, signed by Mr. King himself, Du McKee. He has donated signed books to the MPA before for the scholarship fund, so we're grateful to Stephen King again for donating this one. The difference about this one is it is posted on eBay to garner a wider bidding audience. So you will have to find it there. I believe a link should be showing up in the chat window to where this resides on eBay. And I believe this is on eBay for about 10 days before the bid closes, the bidding closes. So that's where you will find that. Before moving on to the awards presentation, I would like to thank our 2021 conference and programming sponsors, Mitchell Tardy Jackson, Creative Imaging Group, and Broadreach Public Relations. Thank you to all 3 of them. Not only do they sponsor the auction and the conference, they also sponsor the programming that'll be coming up through the rest of the year. And as a reminder, your registration fee for this conference tonight includes the programming that's coming up through the year. It's all one fee, so you can join in on any of these. Some of which are Tell Me a Story, True Adventures in Advertising Sponsored Content, The Changing Nature of Crime Reporting, Marketing Your Newspaper, Expanding Your Readership, and Launching a Nonprofit Newsroom in a For-Profit World. And wait, it's not showing up. Diane, what happened to tips and tricks on becoming next year's MPA Awards presentation MC? That has to be in there. I'll gladly show someone all my tips and tricks and they can take over this helm next year. Just kidding. Or not if we have to do it remotely again. Okay. We're going to Before we move on, one last thing before we move on to the awards presentation is we would like to take a moment to honor our journalism colleagues who have passed away in the last year. And if you hadn't caught it, Lee Horton wrote a very excellent and lovely tribute to Randy in the Sun Journal. If you have not read that, you should dig it up online and check it out. Okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is where things start going quick. So pay attention. We are on with the awards. Starting off with front page design. Winners in the Weekly One category. Third place is Jeremiah Savage of the Weekly Packet. Second place is Lynette Vertanen of the Holton Pioneer Times. First place, Kim Slauson and Sarah E. Reynolds of the Republican Journal. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to the staff of the Ellsworth American. Second place goes to Daniel Dunkel and John Cross of the Courier Gazette. And first place goes to Nadine Gilliland of the Mount Desert Islander. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Brian Robitaille of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Brian Robitaille of the Portland Press Herald. And first place goes to Zach Aldrich of the Portland Press Herald. Moving on to specialty page design, the Weekly One division. Second place goes to Jean Lamontanaro of the Castine Patriot. First place, Cheryl Stabinski of the Calais Advertiser. In the Weekly Two division, second place goes to Ashley Carter of the Ellsworth American. First place goes to Nadine Gilliland of the Mount Desert Islander. In the Daily Weekend division, specialty page design, third place goes to Sally Terrell of the Portland Press Herald. Sally again in second place. And first place goes to Jason Rathbun of the Sun Journal. Sports page design in the Weekly One division, third place goes to Cheryl Stabinski of the Calais Advertiser. Second place, Lynette Vertanen of the Holton Pioneer Times. First place, Ken Waltz of the Camden Herald. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Paula Roberts of the Lincoln County News. Second place goes to Nadine Gilliland of the Mount Desert Islander. And first place, Mike Mandel and Ashley Carter of the Ellsworth American. In the Daily Weekend division, third place is a tie between Randy Whitehouse and Joel Matuzek of the Sun Journal. Joel, if I am mispronouncing your last name, I apologize. And they are tied with Sandra Pooler of the Kennebec Journal. And second place goes to Scott Martin of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Lee Horton and Joel Matuzak of the Sun Journal. Moving on to graphics and illustrations in the combined weekly category for graphic. Third place goes to Meg Robbins of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Ann Berliant and David Fickett of the Ellsworth American. And first place goes to Nadine Gilliland of the Mount Desert Islander. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Michael Fisher of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Michael Fisher again. And first place goes to Karen Schneider and Jason Rathbun of the Sun Journal. Illustration, Weekly One, only a first place finisher, and it is Cheryl Stabinski of the Calais Advertiser. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Rebecca Reinhart of the Portland Phoenix. And second place goes to Nadine Gilliland of the Mount Desert Islander. And first place goes to Chloe Cushman of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Michael Fisher of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Michael Fisher again. And first place in illustration goes to Coralie Cross of the Bangor Daily News. Moving on to the advertising awards. Best local ad in the weekly one division. Third place goes to Jean Lamontanaro of the Weekly Packet. Second place is Jana Smith and Cheryl Stabinski of the Calais Advertiser. First place goes to Jean Lamontanaro of the Castine Patriot. In the weekly two division, third place goes to the staff of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to Amber Clark of the Lincoln County News. First place goes to the staff of the Ellsworth American. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Mark Shipsey and Jake Laws of the Times Record. Second place, the Callie Picard of the Bangor Daily News. First place, Roberto Lemus of the Portland Press Herald. Ad Campaigner Series in the weekly one division, third place is Jean Lamontanaro, Island Advantages. Second place is Jean Lamontanaro again for the Weekly Packet. And first place, Jean Lamontanaro of the Castine Patriot. Hey, Steve Greenlee, if you're listening, could you say that that was a Jean sweep for all three awards? Get it? Jean sweep. This is so hard to do in a vacuum. I don't even get to see the chat window. Do they have a groaning emoji? They must. All right, Ad Campaigner Series, Weekly 2 Division. Third place, Natalie Ladd and Suzanne Pikach of the Portland Phoenix. Second place goes to Heidi Anderson Belcher of the Courier Gazette. First place, the staff of the Lincoln County News. In the daily weekend division for Ad Campaigner Series, third place goes to Coralie Cross of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Carolina Rave of the Bangor Daily News. In first place, Dawn Tatum and the inside sales staff of the Morning Sentinel. In supplement special section, the weekly one division, third place goes to the editorial and design staff of the Camden Herald. Second place goes to the staff of the Castine Patriot. And first place, staff of the Weekly Packet. In the weekly two division, third place goes to the staff of the Lincoln County News. Second place, the staff of the Lincoln County News. And first place, the staff of the Ellsworth American. In the daily weekend division for supplement special section, second place goes to Amy Allen of the Bangor Daily News. In first place, Nancy Fickett, Tyler Roma, and Kelly Wade of the Sun Journal. Supplement cover, weekly one division, third place is Jeremiah Savage of the Weekly Packet. Second place is the staff of the Booth Bay Register. In first place, John Cross of the Camden Herald. In the weekly two division, third place goes to David Fickett of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to John H. Cross Jr. of the Courier Gazette. First place, Amber Clark of the Lincoln County News. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Melissa Pritchard of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Callie Picard of the Bangor Daily News. In first place, Alicia Tuttle of the Kennebec Journal. The Young Reader Engagement Idea, the weekly categories are combined, or weekly divisions. Third place goes to the staff of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to Maya Zurt of the Lincoln County News. First place goes to Bailey Beltramo of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to the staff of the Sun Journal. Second place goes to the staff of the Times Record. And first place is Amy Allen and Coralie Cross of the Bangor Daily News. Best circulation promo in the weekly one division, third place goes to Jean Lamontanaro, Island Advantages. Second place goes to Jean Lamontanaro of the Weekly Packet. Is this going to happen again? Another Jean sweep. Woo! Jean Lamontanaro, Castine Patriot. In the weekly 2 division, second place goes to the staff of the Lincoln County News. First place goes to the staff of the Ellsworth American. In the daily weekend division, second place goes to Alicia Tuttle of the Morning Sentinel, and first place, Alicia Tuttle of the Portland Press Herald. Best self-promotion in the weekly 1 division, first place goes to Jana Smith and Cheryl Stabinski of the Callis Advertiser. In the weekly 2 division, third place goes to the staff of the Ellsworth American, the staff of the Mount Desert Islander. In first place, Amber Clark and Maya Zewert of the Lincoln County News. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Alicia Tuttle of the Kennebec Journal. Second place goes to Marcy Coombs of the Bangor Daily News. In first place, staff of the Portland Press Herald. Best new revenue idea in the weekly 1 division, first place goes to Jana Smith of the Callis Advertiser. In the weekly 2 division, third place goes to the advertising and design staff of the Courier Gazette. Second place goes to the staff of the Mount Desert Islander. And first place, the staff of the Ellsworth American. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to the creative team of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to the event staff of the Portland Press Herald. First place, Kelly Wade, Melissa Logan, and Jennifer Jenren Carlton of the Sun Journal. Best digital ad campaign, weekly, which is a combined category. There were no entries. That's so sad. In the daily weekend division, second place goes to Jake Laws and David Pierce of the Morning Sentinel. And first place goes to David Tripp of the Portland Press Herald. This brings us to the Advertising Person of the Year. In introducing the Advertising Person of the Year will be Courtney Spencer, Vice President of Advertising for the Portland Press Herald.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Courtney Spencer, Vice President of Advertising for Masthead, Maine. I want to congratulate all of the newsrooms across Maine tonight. Your reporting, your commitment to informing our communities, and your dedication throughout this year has been inspiring. I am pleased to present the Advertiser Salesperson of the Year award today, and I want to start by asking a question. Have you ever met a salesperson who seems to summit every mountain, land the biggest fish, dig the deepest for every opportunity, and never, ever give up on finding the yes? Newspaper advertising sales requires persistence, curiosity, passion, relationship building skills, along with hard work and a strong commitment to the mission. When it comes to the National Book of Business, the revenue stakes are high and can make or break a sales budget. Managing RFPs is no small challenge, and making sure no dollars are left on the table is the goal. I couldn't be more proud to recognize one of the elite salespeople in this vertical, Jane Patrickman of the Press Herald. 2020 was a desperate year for many sales departments as our clients closed their doors, changed their strategies, and worried about the coming months. The National Book of Business was a little more resilient, but where Jane really shined in 2020 was her ability to take an advocacy inquiry for the Press Herald and turn it into revenue for other Masthead Maine publications. A few statistics to paint the picture. Jane sold $651,000 into our network papers. 37% of her sales during this period were into other properties. Her total revenue in October of 2020 alone exceeded $463,000. Many people believe that national and particularly advocacy revenue just comes in over the transom and there's very little influence to be exerted. Jane blew that theory out of the water with her ability to add on papers beyond the request she received from the client. She provided guidance not only about which papers to advertise in, but also what messages to promote. Jane's recommendations made their ads more impactful on a state level. Being local and being the eyes on the street was her superpower. Jane has been a newspaper sales consultant since 1978 when she started at the Boston Globe. After almost 23 years there, she worked for Foster's before joining the Press Herald in 2004. She's been a top contributor ever since she started with us, and this past year proves why. Jane, you are an MVP in my book every day.
Congratulations, Jane. Awesome recognition. Okay. We're going to move on to some writing awards. And starting off with news story. In the weekly one division, third place, Hannah Catwin of the St. John Valley Times. Second place goes to Alexander McDougall of the Fulton Pioneer Times. First place goes to Leslie Landrigan of Island Advantages. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Sarah Hinckley of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place, Jennifer Osborne of the Ellsworth American. And first place goes to Sean Murphy of the Forecaster. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to David Marino Jr. of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Mark Laflamme of the Sun Journal. First place goes to Randy Billings of the Portland Press Herald. In spot news story in the weekly one division, third place goes to Sarah Craighead Dedman, Machias Valley News Observer. Hey, Sarah, if you're watching, are you impressed that I fit all that on one line? It took a lot of doing. Second place goes to Alexander McDougall of the Fulton Pioneer Times. And first place goes to David Marino Jr. of the Star Herald. Spot news story in the weekly two division, third place goes to Faith D'Ambrose of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to Stephen Betts of the Courier Gazette. First place goes to Evan Hout of the Lincoln County News. In the daily weekend division for spot news story, third place goes to Gillian Graham and Matt Byrne of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Mark Laflamme, Christopher Williams, and Steve Collins of the Sun Journal. First place goes to the staff of the Sun Journal. Political story in the weekly one division, third place goes to Susan Johns of the Wiscasset newspaper. Second place goes to Kathleen Phelan Tomaselli of the Star Herald. First place goes to Fran Gonzalez of the Republican Journal. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Colin Ellis of the Portland Phoenix. Second place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. And first place goes to Susan Cover, Darren Fishel, and Meg Robbins of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division for political story, third place goes to Caitlin Andrews of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Scott Thistle of the Portland Press Herald. And first place goes to Greg Levinsky of the Morning Sentinel. Court story in the weekly one division, third place goes to Joseph Sear of the Holton Pioneer Times. Second place goes to Stephen Betts of the Camden Herald. First place goes to Chris Bouchard of the Aristic Republican. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Sarah Hinckley of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to Doug Rooks of the Portland Phoenix. First place goes to Samantha Hogan of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place, Megan Gray of the Portland Press Herald. Second place, Callie Ferguson of the Bangor Daily News. And first place is Megan Gray of the Portland Press Herald. Investigative report in the weekly one division, second place goes to Jana Smith and Natalie Boomer of the Calais Advertiser. First place goes to Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Chance Viles of the American Journal. Second place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. First place, Samantha Hogan of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Randy Billings of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Lindsay Tice of the Sun Journal. First place goes to Aaron Rhoda, Callie Ferguson, and Josh Keefe of the Bangor Daily News. Moving on to some photo awards. In the news photo category, the weekly one division, third place goes to Mark Robinson of Island Advantages. Second place goes to Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald. And first place rather, sorry, Joseph Sear of the Holton Pioneer Times. In the weekly 2 division, third place goes to BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. Second place goes to Katie Brown of the Maine Monitor. And first place goes to Stephen Betts of the Courier Gazette. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Troy R. Bennett of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Troy R. Bennett of the Bangor Daily News. And first place goes to Michael G. Siemens of the Morning Sentinel. In spot news category, weekly 1 division, third place goes to Carolyn Zachary of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Leslie Landrigan of Island Advantages. And first place, Jessica Potilla of the St. John Valley Times. Spot news in the weekly 2 division, third place goes to Stephen Betts of the Courier Gazette. Second place goes to Letitia Baldwin of the Ellsworth American. And first place, BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. Third place in the daily weekend division goes to Rich Abramson of the Morning Sentinel. Second place goes to Derek Davis of the Portland Press Herald. And first place goes to Michael G. Siemens of the Morning Sentinel. Moving on to video awards, starting off with news video in the weekly 1 division. First place goes to Susan Johns of the Wiscasset newspaper. In the weekly 2 division, first place goes to Yoon S. Byun and Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to yours truly. Second place goes to Russ Dillingham of the Sun Journal. And first place, Linda Cohen-O'Kresick of the Bangor Daily News. Sports video in the combined weekly category, second place goes to Roger McCord of the Maine Monitor. First place goes to Zach Miller of the Republican Journal. Sports video in the daily weekend division, second place goes to Linda Cohen-O'Kresick of the Bangor Daily News. First place, Russ Dillingham of the Sun Journal. Feature lifestyle video in the combined weekly category, third place goes to the staff of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Roger McCord of the Maine Monitor. First place is Roger McCord of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Joe Phelan of the Kennebec Journal. Second place goes to Linda Cohen-O'Kresick of the Bangor Daily News. And first place goes to Troy R. Bennett of the Bangor Daily News. That brings us on to the Unsung Hero Award, and introducing the MPA 2021 Unsung Hero will be Lisa DeSisto, publisher and CEO of Masthead, Maine.
Good evening. This year's Unsung Hero joined Today Media, then Gigantic Publishing, in April of 1976, when we looked on Congress Street. In the mid-90s, when we opened this distribution facility in South Portland, he became our Nightside distribution manager. So after the stories are filed, the plates are made, and the papers come off the press, he springs into action, overseeing a team that inserts all the flyers, bundles the papers, and gets them out the door on time into the hands of our readers. He's the true definition of unsung hero because he crosses paths with few people in our organization, yet we would be lost without him. He's a logistics master, oversees a complex operation, and runs the shop with urgency and accuracy. He has worked every Christmas Eve for 44 years until we decided to stop publishing the paper in Christmas of just last year. Staffing shortages, mechanical failures, he overcomes all the obstacles. His energy level and dedication have not wavered in those 45 years. It's actually a blessing that the ceremony is virtual, because if he had to be in person to accept it, I can guarantee you the Maine Sunday Telegram would be late tomorrow. It is my pleasure to present and offer my heartfelt congratulations to the 2021 Maine Press Association Unsung Hero, Keith Taylor.
Congratulations, Keith. Well deserved. That's a lot of years of Christmas Eve working. Kudos to you. Okay, this moves us on to more writing stories. Oh, wait, sorry, I got to break in. I just got an AP news alert. I don't know if anybody else has saw this, but the CEO of IKEA has just won president in an election in Sweden. Word is he's now busy assembling his cabinet. Wah, wah. This is so hard to do in a vacuum. I can't even see a chat window. I am so alone. All right, moving back to writing awards. We're going to move on to the analysis category, and in the weekly one division, third place, Alexander McDougall of the Holton Pioneer Times. Second place, Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald. First place, Chris Bouchard of the Aroostook Republican. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Marina Schofler of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Stephen Betts of the Courier Gazette. First place goes to Kay Stevens of the Penobscot Bay Pilot. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Jessica Piper of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Kevin Miller of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Lindsay Tice of the Sun Journal. Moving on to the continuing story category in the weekly one division, third place goes to Fran Gonzalez and Kendra Caruso of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Joseph Charpentier of the Boothbay Register. First place, Chris Bouchard of the Aroostook Republican. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Samantha Hogan of the Maine Monitor. And first place, Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Emily Dugan of the Kennebec Journal. Second place goes to the staff of the Sun Journal. And first place goes to Greg Levinsky and Taylor Abbott of the Morning Sentinel. Moving on to business story in the weekly one division, third place goes to Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald. Second place goes to Chris Bouchard of the Aroostook Republican. First place goes to Sean Sullivan of the York County Coast Star. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Colin Ellis of the Portland Phoenix. Second place goes to Jordan Bailey of the Maine Monitor. And first place goes to Samantha Hogan and Meg Robbins of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, for business story, third place goes to Catherine Skelton of the Sun Journal. Second place goes to Peter McGuire of the Portland Press Herald. And the first place goes to Penelope Overton of the Portland Press Herald. Education story in the weekly one division. Third place goes to Sarah E. Reynolds of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Nicole Carter, Advertiser Democrat. First place goes to Kendra Caruso of the Republican Journal. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Kay Stevens of the Penobscot Bay Pilot. Second place goes to Sean Murphy of the Forecaster. First place goes to Rose Lundy of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division for education story, third place goes to Rachel Ohm of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Lindsay Tice of the Sun Journal. First place goes to Isha Penharkar of the Bangor Daily News. Moving on to health story, the weekly one division, third place goes to Melissa Lizotte of the Star Herald. Second place goes to Nicole Carter of the Advertiser Democrat. First place goes to Fran Gonzalez of the Republican Journal. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Evan Houck of the Lincoln County News. Second place goes to Doug Rooks of the Portland Phoenix. First place, Sarah Hinckley of the Mount Desert Islander. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Hannah LeClaire of the Times Record. Second place goes to Greg Levinsky of the Morning Sentinel. And first place goes to Joel Lawler of the Portland Press Herald. Moving on to environmental story, the weekly one division, third place goes to Pam Hardin of the Livermore Falls Advertiser. Second place goes to Fran Gonzalez of the Republican Journal. And first place goes to Alexander McDougall of the Holton Pioneer Times, the only newspaper in the world interested in Holton, Maine. Love that. Moving on to the Weekly 2 division, Stephen Betts of the Courier Gazette. Second place, Katie Brown of the Maine Monitor. First place, Marina Schaufler of the Maine Monitor. In the Daily Weekend division, third place, Julia Bailey of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Kevin Miller of the Portland Press Herald. And first place goes to Colin Woodard of the Portland Press Herald. Moving on to the editorial awards. Editorial Weekly 1 division. Third place goes to the staff of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Susan Mustapich of the Camden Herald. And first place goes to Nat Barrows of the Weekly Packet. In the Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Faith DeAmbrose of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to Cindy Wood of the Ellsworth American. And first place goes to Daniel Dunkel of the Courier Gazette. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Ben Bragdon of the Morning Sentinel. Second place goes to the editorial board of the Bangor Daily News. And first place goes to Greg Kesich of the Portland Press Herald. Opinion columnists in the Weekly 1 division, third place goes to Sean Sullivan of the York County Co-Star. Second place, Sam Patton of the Camden Herald. First place goes to Paula Brewer of the Star Herald. In the Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Shlomit Osiello. I really hope I pronounced that right, of the Courier Gazette. Second place goes to David Grima of the Courier Gazette. And first place goes to Jill Goldthwaite of the Mount Desert Islander. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Victoria Hugo Vidal of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Marla Hoffman of the Sun Journal. First place goes to George Smith of the Kennebec Journal. Moving on to editorial cartoonist, Weekly 1 division. Second place goes to Bob Bryson of the Cowess Advertiser. First place, Bob Bryson of the Machias Valley News Observer. In the Weekly 2 division, second place goes to Joe Marshall of the Mount Desert Islander. First place, Glenn Chadbourne of the Lincoln County News. In the Daily Weekend division, second place goes to George Danby of the Bangor Daily News. First place goes to Steve Myers of the Portland Press Herald. Moving on to editorial page, the Weekly 1 division, third place goes to the staff of the Cowess Advertiser. Second place goes to the staff of the Camden Herald. And first place goes to the staff of the Republican Journal. Weekly 2 division, third place goes to the staff of the Ellsworth American. Second place goes to the staff of the Mount Desert Islander. First place, staff of the Courier Gazette. In the Daily Weekend division for editorial page, third place goes to Ben Bragdon and Megan Batchelder for the Morning Sentinel. Second place goes to Ben Bragdon and Megan again of the Kennebec Journal. And first place, the staff of the Portland Press Herald. Moving back on to some photo awards. We are starting off with Scenic Photo. In the Weekly 1 division, hold on, I need a drink of water. I'm getting... Third place goes to Camille Fine of the York Weekly. Second place goes to Eli Foreman of the Weekly Packet. First place goes to Morgan Mitchell, the St. John Valley Times. In the Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Cindy Wood of the Ellsworth American. Second place goes to Christine Simmons of the Courier Gazette. First place, Linda Clancy of the Penobscot Bay Pilot. All those sailboats, it must be a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Ha. All right, in the Daily Weekend division for Scenic Photo, third place is Linda Cohen-O'Kresick of the Bangor Daily News. Second place is Derek Davis of the Portland Press Herald. First place, Rich Abramson of the Morning Sentinel. People Photo in the Weekly 1 division, third place goes to Alexander McDougall of the Holton Pioneer Times. Second place, Paula Brewer of the Star Herald. First place, Camille Fine of the York Weekly. In the Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Sarah Hinckley of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. First place goes to Yoon S. Byun of the Maine Monitor. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Ben McKenna of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Michael G. Siemens of the Morning Sentinel. And first place goes to Troy R. Bennett of the Bangor Daily News. Moving on to a few headlines, headline awards. News headline in the Weekly 1 division, third place goes to Kendra Caruso of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Bill Pearson of the Booth Bay Register. First place, Sarah Craighead Dedman of the Machias Valley News Observer for union files grievance after dispatcher fired for spit milk. No use in crying over spit milk, I guess. Weekly 2, third place, Christine Simmons of the Courier Gazette. Second place, Maya Zurt of the Lincoln County News. In first place, Christine Simmons, the Courier Gazette for marijuana business hopes for joint operation. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Patrick Cochran of the Sun Journal. Second place goes to Becky Bowden of the Bangor Daily News. And first place goes to Ben Pinette of the Morning Sentinel for Anxiety on Rise. Feature headline in the Weekly 1 division, third place goes to Sarah Craighead Dedman of the Machias Valley News Observer. Second place goes to Susan Johns of the Wiscasset Newspaper. And first place goes to Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald for Video Made the Library Star. Oh, great. Thanks, Dan. I'm going to have that song stuck in my head for the rest of the presentation. In the feature headline Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Hal Madsen of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Dick Broom of the Mount Desert Islander. First place goes to Hal Madsen of the Maine Monitor for From His Seat in a Wheelchair, Nobody Ever Stood Taller. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Leslie Bridgers of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Sally Terrell of the Portland Press Herald. And first place is Sally Terrell of the Portland Press Herald for Fattening the Curve. The sports headline in the Weekly 1 division, third place goes to Bill Pearson of the Booth Bay Register. Second place goes to Ken Waltz of the Camden Herald. And first place goes to Ken Waltz of the Republican Journal. Iowa farmer Batani ready to plant, nurture success for Lion athletes. In the Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Mike Mandel of the Ellsworth American. Second place goes to Ken Waltz of the Courier Gazette. First place goes to Hal Madsen of the Maine Monitor for From His Seat in a Wheelchair, Nobody Ever Stood Taller. And in a coincidence, in a new category this year, Hal, you have won the Efficiency Award for having one headline win 2 awards. Congratulations on being efficient. But no, it's a great head, and Steve's story on Troy was, Travis Roy was just amazing. Sports headline in the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Joe Grant of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Scott Martin of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Joe Grant of the Portland Press Herald for Alone Again, Naturally. Oh, great. Thanks, Joe. I now have another song stuck in my head. Okay, we're moving on to the Bob Drake Young Writer Award. And introducing the recipient of this year's Bob Drake Young Writer Award is Amy Canfield, Editor-in-Chief of the Forecasters, the American Journal, and the Lakes Region Weekly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Canfield, and I'm the editor of the 6 Forecaster Weeklies, which include the Lakes Region Weekly. Tonight, I am happy to announce that the winner of the Bob Drake Young Writer Award is former Lakes Region Weekly staff writer Emily Bayer. Emily joined the Lakes Region Weekly a few weeks before the newsroom went remote. It was her first newspaper job out of college. She was in a new place and she was responsible for covering 9 towns. And she had to do all this without the benefit of office mates to help her out. But, and on top of that, she came right at the beginning of municipal and school budget season. But she quickly learned to analyze a budget and moved on from there. She covered Black Lives Matter protests in rural areas, and along with the elected officials who were opposed to anti-racism resolutions locally. She covered a protracted budget fight in one town that resulted in the shutdown of their beloved public library. And she reported on the opioid epidemic in Western Cumberland County, along with broadband problems in the area. But she did a lot of, as you can imagine, from everything from schools to features to police notes. But what she did an especially good job on was her coverage of a selectman in one town who made a racist comment during a meeting, a public meeting. And at first, and Emily got this, but at first the town edited that comment out of the video that they posted of the meeting online. So she submitted a FOA request to get the original video. And she also submitted a request to, in order to verify that this particular selectman had written racist emails to another selectman during the Obama administration. She covered the story from citizens' petition to recall the selectman. She went during a petition drive at the town transfer station. She went and hung out with them and to get residents' input and feedback. And she covered it right until the end when she was watching one of the selectmen's meeting on Zoom, and the selectman quit in a huff. From starting her professional career with the Lakes Region Weekly on difficult circumstances, Emily showed that she has not only the intelligence and the news judgment to excel as a professional journalist, but she has the drive to do so. Last spring, she left the Lakes Region Weekly for a reporting job at the Sun Journal, and she's already showing us there that she is doing great work. So congratulations, Emily. Really happy to see that you're getting this award. Thank you.
Congratulations, Emily. And I hear from folks at the Sun Journal that you're already doing incredible work up there. So kudos to you for being the 2021 MPA Bob Drake Young Writer. This would be a good time for me. Diane would really appreciate if I remember to tell you about the auction. Have we talked about the auction? Have we talked about the honey jars? Have we talked about the vacation stays? Have we talked about sea dogs, seats right above the first base dugout? There's so many good things. So, and it's really an important cause because it's important to encourage young folks to be interested in journalism. We need truth tellers in the future. Instead of, all right, I'm not going to say don't watch me. You don't have to watch me. You could go to the auction page. Everybody's got multiple monitors. So, you could have me going over on monitor 1, and on monitor 2, you could be following the bids of the auction items. Because multitasking is what we do as journalists, right? Okay, moving back to some more writing awards. We are kicking off with the Arts Lifestyle feature in the Weekly 1 division. Third place goes to Christine Dunkel of the Camden Herald. Second place goes to Jessica Patilla of the St. John Valley Times. First place goes to Eli Foreman of the Castine Patriot. In the Weekly 2 division, third place goes to Steve Soloway of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Steve Soloway of the Maine Monitor. First place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Bob Keyes of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Ray Ruthier of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Victoria DeCoster of the Sun Journal. Moving on to Food Story in the Weekly One division, third place goes to CeCe King of the Camden Herald. Second place goes to Jessica Patilla of the St. John Valley Times. First place goes to Alexander McDougall of the Holton Pioneer Times. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Kay Stevens of the Penobscot Bay Pilot. Second place goes to Faith DeAmbrose of the Mount Desert Islander. First place goes to BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Sam Schiapani of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Peggy Grudinsky of the Portland Press Herald. And first place goes to Greg Levinsky of the Morning Sentinel. Religion Spirituality Story in the Weekly One division, third place goes to Sarah E. Reynolds of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Joseph Sear of the Holton Pioneer Times. First place goes to David Marino Jr. of the Star Herald. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. And first place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. Nice work, Barbara. You really had it was a bad pun. If I'm not going to say it, you know it's really bad because my standards are so bad, so low. Moving on to the Daily Weekend division, third place, Kelly Bouchard of the Portland Press Herald. Second place, it's the staff of the Sun Journal. And first place, Kelly Bouchard of the Portland Press Herald. Moving on to local columnists, the Weekly One division, third place goes to Phil DeVecce of the Wiscasset newspaper. Second place goes to Barbara Dyer of the Camden Herald. First place goes to Sarah E. Reynolds of the Republican Journal. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Chris Ferraza of the Courier Gazette. Second place goes to Dan Dunkel of the Courier Gazette. First place goes to Natalie Ladd of the Portland Phoenix. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Sandy Oliver of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Amy Calder of the Morning Sentinel. First place goes to Bob Duchesne of the Bangor Daily News. Critics Award in the Weekly One division, third place goes to John Reisman of the Calais Advertiser. Second place goes to Lisa Christoph of the Booth Bay Register. First place goes to R.J. Heller of the Machias Valley News Observer. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Nan Lincoln of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. And first place goes to Megan Grumbling of the Portland Phoenix. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Judy Harrison of the Bangor Daily News. Second place goes to Andrew Ross of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Jorge Arango of the Portland Press Herald. Outdoors Story, Weekly One division, third place, Holly Van Oor Spicer of the Republican Journal. Second place, Jessica Patilla of the St. John Valley Times. First place goes to Zach Miller of the Camden Herald. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. Second place goes to Linda Clancy of the Penobscot Bay Pilot. And first place goes to Shannon Bryan of the Portland Phoenix. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Steve Craig of the Portland Press Herald. Second place goes to Catherine Skelton of the Sun Journal. And first place goes to Deirdre Fleming of the Portland Press Herald. Feature story in the Weekly One division, third place goes to Carolyn Zachary of the Republican Journal. Second place goes to Steve Porter of the York Weekly. And first place goes to Leslie Landrigan of Island Advantages. In the Weekly Two division, third place goes to Barbara Walsh of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Steve Soloway of the Maine Monitor. In first place, Barbara Walsh, the Maine Monitor. In the Daily Weekend division, third place goes to Andrea Kane of the Sun Journal. Second place goes to Gillian Graham of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Mark Laflamme of the Sun Journal. Moving on to some more photos. In the weekly one division for feature photo, third place goes to Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald. Second place goes to Sean Sullivan of the York County Coast Star. And first place goes to Joseph Sear of Holton Pioneer Times. In the weekly two division, third place goes to Eunice Bien of the Maine Monitor. Second place goes to Dick Broom of the Mount Desert Islander. Dick, you were really dogged in getting this shot. I moved on quickly from that bad pun. First place, feature photo, weekly two division goes to Paul Roberts of the Lincoln County News. In the daily weekend division, third place goes to Andrea Kane of the Sun Journal. Second place goes to Darren Slover of the Sun Journal. In feature photo, daily weekend division, first place, Rich Abramson of the Morning Sentinel. Picture story, the weekly one division, third place for Clock Installed, Jackson Long of the Camden Herald. Second place, sled races on Unity Pond by Fran Gonzalez of the Republican Journal. In first place for Heroes Honored and Remembered, Jana Smith of the Callis Advertiser. In the weekly two division for picture story, third place for NC Hunt by BC Cameron Yee of the Lincoln County News. Second place for Pandemic Galleries, the readers of the Penobscot Bay Pilot. Wow. Linda, Diane, is this the first time that readers have won an MPA award? Is this historic here? Which is kind of cool. And what a great idea to have readers send in photos just as another way to get through the hellish year that we had. It's not over. It's been longer than a year, hasn't it? It's been too long. Okay, first place in the weekly two division for picture story for The Rise of Angels, Fred J. Field of the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division for picture story, third place goes to Summer Protests by Troy R. Bennett of the Bangor Daily News. Second place, Rural COVID Soldiers by Michael G. Siemens of the Morning Sentinel. First place goes to the staff of the Portland Press Herald for Racial Justice. Before starting any sports photo, I need to take another sip of water. Moving on to sports photo in the weekly one division. Third place, Ken Waltz of the Camden Herald. Second place, Ken Waltz of the Republican Journal. First place, Jana Smith of the Callis Advertiser. Sports photo in the weekly two division. Third place goes to Ken Waltz of the Courier Gazette. Good catch on this photo, Ken. I don't have my dollar bills or the pun jar this year. Weekly two division sports photo, second place, Paula Roberts of the Lincoln County News. First place goes to Ken Waltz of the Courier Gazette. In the daily weekend division for sports photo, third place goes to Michael G. Siemens of the Morning Sentinel. Second place goes to Brianna Soka of the Portland Press Herald. We just learned about a year ago that we have been pronouncing Brianna's last name wrong for like the past 3.5 years. So it's Soka, we now know. First place for sports photo daily weekend division goes to Linda Cohen-O'Kresick of the Bangor Daily News. Let the games begin. This must mean we're moving on to the sports awards. Game story weekly one. Third place goes to Chris Bouchard of the Aristic Republican. Second place goes to Ken Waltz and Mark Haskell of the Camden Herald. First place goes to Joseph Sear of the Holton Pioneer Times. In weekly two division, third place goes to Mike Mandel of the Mount Desert Islander. Second place, Mark Haskell of the Courier Gazette. And in first place, Mike Mandel of the Ellsworth American. In the daily weekend division for game story, third place goes to Randy Whitehouse of the Sun Journal. Second place, Mike Lowe of the Portland Press Herald. And first place, Mike Lowe of the Portland Press Herald. Sports news story in the weekly 1 division. 3rd place goes to Kevin G. Burnham of the Booth Bay Register. 2nd place goes to Jana Smith of the Calais Advertiser. 1st place goes to Jessica Patilla of the St. John Valley Times. In the weekly 2 division, 3rd place goes to Paula Roberts of the Lincoln County News. 2nd place goes to Mike Mandel of the Mount Desert Islander. 1st place goes to Mark Haskell of the Courier Gazette. In the daily weekend division for sports news story, 3rd place goes to Tony Blasi of the Sun Journal. 2nd place goes to Drew Bonifant of the Morning Sentinel. And 1st place goes to Steve Craig and Mike Lowe of the Portland Press Herald. Sports profile in the weekly 1 division, 3rd place goes to Jessica Patilla of the St. John Valley Times. 2nd place goes to Holly Venor Spicer of the Republican Journal. 1st place goes to Mark Haskell of the Republican Journal. In the weekly 2 division, 3rd place goes to Ken Waltz of the Courier Gazette. 2nd place goes to Ken Waltz of the Courier Gazette. 1st place goes to Steve Soloway of Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division, 3rd place goes to Drew Bonifant of the Morning Sentinel. 2nd place goes to Mike Lowe of the Portland Press Herald. 1st place goes to Steve Craig and Mike Lowe, Portland Press Herald. Sports columnist in the weekly 1 division, 3rd place is a tie between Holly Venor Spicer of the Camden Herald and Mark Haskell of the Camden Herald. Well, at least you kept it in-house. 2nd place goes to Zach Miller of the Republican Journal, and 1st place, Ken Waltz of the Camden Herald. In the weekly 2 division, 3rd place goes to Paula Roberts of the Lincoln County News. 2nd place goes to Holly Venor Spicer of the Courier Gazette. 1st place goes to Tiger Cumming of the Lincoln County News. In the daily weekend division, 3rd place goes to Kevin Thomas of the Portland Press Herald. 2nd place goes to Dave Dyer of the Kennebec Journal. And 1st place goes to Drew Bonifant of the Morning Sentinel. It's getting late. I'm starting to mash all my words together. I'm going so fast. The sports section awards in the weekly 1 division, 3rd place goes to the staff of the Holton Pioneer Times. 2nd place goes to the staff of the Republican Journal. And 1st place, staff of the Camden Herald. In the weekly 2 division, 3rd place goes to Mike Mandel of the Mount Desert Islander. 2nd place, Mike again for the Ellsworth American. And 1st place, the staff of the Courier Gazette. In the daily weekend division, 3rd place goes to the staff of the Morning Sentinel. 2nd place, the staff of the Portland Press Herald. And 1st place, staff of the Kennebec Journal. Moving on to our photo best in shows. This is, to explain this a little bit, there's a best in show for each division, weekly 1, weekly 2, and daily weekend. And the photos do not have to be 1st place finishers in any of their categories. As a matter of fact, the photos don't have to place at all. They are judged from all of the photos that are entered. And that's the skinny on that. One thing I want to say before I move on, I've got to share a little story with you. So I launched this presentation at 2 p.m. this afternoon to add a couple things into it. And when I opened it up, I discovered that all of my formatting on every single slide had gotten messed up. Text was overlapped, images were compressed, it was a mess. And I had to go through and fix every single slide. Anybody want to take a guess at how many slides there are in this slideshow presentation? I can't hear you and I can't see the chat window, so I'll just tell you. 320. So I bring that up because if you see formatting errors as we've gone through this show, and there's been a number that have caught my eye, there's a good reason, because I had 2 hours to fix everything. And so some things didn't get off the cutting room floor, I guess. So now we're done with that, we can get back on to best in show. So photo best in show in the weekly 1 division, Asher Enjoying the Fun by Jana Smith of the Calais Advertiser. I love this photo. This is the attitude I want after the past year. I'm just gonna go through my days laughing like that. In the weekly 2 division, Black Lives Matter Protest Escape by Katie Brown of the Maine Monitor. And in the daily weekend division, a repeat performance by Michael G. Siemens of the Morning Sentinel for Silva Protest. I say repeat performance because Mike won Best in Show last year. Congratulations to you all for those awesome awards. This brings us on to the Journalist of the Year Award, and introducing this year's MPA 2021 Journalist of the Year is Dan Dinsmore, executive producer of Spectrum News Maine and editor emeritus of the Maine Monitor. Emeritus, really, Dan? That's pretty fancy. Does that mean you get to wear like the robe with the sash that makes you look really smart? Because I think you should have one of those, because that would look awesome on you. I know it would. So on to Dan's introduction.
Hi, my name is Dan Dinsmore, and I'm the executive producer of Spectrum News Maine here in Maine. We are a relatively new digital-first, app-focused newsroom here in Maine, working with many of you who are our media partners now. Prior to joining Spectrum News, which I joined in July of this year, I spent 3.5 years as the executive producer of the Maine Center for Public Interest Reporting, and I was the editor and publisher of the Maine Monitor. Those were and possibly will be the most enjoyable journalism years of my life, because we were able to take time and do some really incredible local reporting, enterprise reporting, dogged, just really pursuing investigative work as well. And I'm honored today to introduce Maine's Journalist of the Year, Samantha Hogan. Samantha and I worked very closely together for 2 years on a series of projects looking at the Maine Commission on Indigent Legal Services. Many probably know that Maine is the only state without a true public defender system. And we had a couple of tips back in March of 2019, April of 2019, that I received. I hired Samantha Hogan back in June of 2019 as a Report for America core member. I did not have the bandwidth to chase this story, so I handed it off to Samantha, and she ran with it. She is an amazing, young, talented, driven, dogged reporter. I cannot wait to see what she becomes in her future. But with this series that we call Defenseless, Samantha published nearly 40 different stories about Maine's broken public defense system. She observed courthouses, she talked to sources, talked to lawyers. She became familiar with this system unlike very few people in this state. And her stories had impact. Within a few weeks of her first story in October of 2020, the executive director of the Maine Commission on Indigent Legal Services resigned. Governor Mills called for massive reforms of the system itself. There was a unanimous vote in the legislature just last spring to push forward reforms that had come out of committee. While this story is not complete, I cannot be prouder of the effort that Samantha Hogan has put into a project that is not an easy project. This is not a daily story that you jump in and you jump out the next day. Samantha has been doggedly pursuing this story now for going on 20 months, and I could not be prouder. Being her editor and working very closely with her day in and day out has been a joy. And by far, this is an honor that she deserves, because sometimes reporting is hard. Sometimes local journalism takes time, and Samantha Hogan epitomizes all of that. So with that said, I want to congratulate Samantha Hogan, my friend, and somebody I am deeply, deeply proud of. as the 2021 Maine Journalist of the Year. Thank you.
Congratulations to Samantha for winning Journalist of the Year. Awesome. And I have followed your work at the Maine Monitor, and it really is incredible. So congratulations to you, well deserved. And Dan, on your part, I want to congratulate you for pronouncing indigent correctly twice in the same video. I know that's hard. There's a lot of pressure going on. And I also want to let you know that you yourself this evening have won an award. You have, and it is for having the longest video introduction for one of the Year awards. I'll mail you your award. It's a big clock. No, I'm just kidding. Getting a little punchy here, speaking into the void. Okay, so we are nearing the end of the presentation. We're moving on to the big awards of the year. And before I launch into them, I would be remiss, would I not, Diane, if I did not say auction? Did somebody say auction? Don't tell me it's none of your business. You need to get bidding. So it is your business. Get there and bid. Man, I wish I could see the chat window because I want to know what the price of those honey jars have gone up to. Okay, so taking on a serious tone because the FOI awards are very serious and they are at the core of what we do, especially in these trying times where, like I was saying earlier, the truth is getting battered. It is, and there's a lot of echo chambers out there. And there's a lot of people who don't want people to know things. And so you all, by having this, I don't know, it's like having it's not a tool, it's like a sword you have, this filing FOIAs. And I'm just impressed at how you all do it so well. So moving on to the Freedom of Information Awards in the Weekly One Division. First place is a tie between Sarah Craighead-Dedman of the Machias Valley News Observer and Daniel Dunkel of the Camden Herald. Congratulations, both of you. In the Weekly Two Division, first place goes to J.W. Oliver of the Lincoln County News. In the Daily Weekend Division for Freedom of Information, third place goes to the staff of the Sun Journal. Second place goes to the staff of the Portland Press Herald. First place goes to Callie Ferguson, Josh Keefe, and Aaron Rhoda of the Bangor Daily News. Congratulations. Moving on to the General Excellence Awards, we're going to start off first with General Excellence in Advertising in the Weekly One Division. Third place goes to the Boothbay Register and Wiscasset newspaper. Second place goes to the Camden Herald. And first place for General Excellence in Advertising in the Weekly One Division, the Republican Journal. Judges' comments included, overall advertising looks good. Page layout is done well. Congratulations. In the Weekly Two Division, third place goes to the Lincoln County News. Second place goes to the Courier Gazette. First place for General Excellence in Advertising in the Weekly Two Division is a tie between the Mount Desert Islander and the Ellsworth American. And the judge's comments were addressed to both newspapers because he realized that they are sister newspapers. Great color on ads, creative layout with down the garden path, lots of classified advertising, well-organized shop local section is well done. In the Daily Weekend Division for General Excellence in Advertising, third place goes to the Sun Journal, second place goes to the Portland Press Herald, and first place to the Bangor Daily News. Judges' comments were lots of ads throughout all issues submitted. Page layout, well done, organized. I appreciate the how to reach us box with contact info being easily viewable. It encourages readers to reach out. Congratulations to the staff of the BDN, the advertising staff, and everybody who makes that happen. Moving on to the General Excellence Digital Awards, the weekly one division. Second place is the Republican Journal. First place goes to the Booth Bay Register. Judges' comments included easy to navigate, not many updates. Appreciated the top left treatment for the COVID news. Good interaction and engagement on Facebook and active Twitter. In the weekly 2 division for General Excellence Digital, third place goes to the Mount Desert Islander. Second place goes to the Courier Gazette. And first place goes to the Maine Monitor. Judges' comments included, the Maine Monitor's design stands out, even when compared to some bigger newspaper websites. The navigation is clean, the color scheme unique and engaging, and frequent use of photos and other visuals help guide readers through in-depth stories. Congratulations to the Maine Monitor. In the daily weekend division for General Excellence Digital, third place goes to the Sun Journal, second place goes to the Bangor Daily News, and first place goes to the Portland Press Herald. Judges' comments included strongest content of the bunch, appreciated Q&A, COVID tracker, data hub, etc. See, there were just so many excellent things. You had to fall back on it, etc. Congratulations to the PPH. All right, moving on to the General Excellence in Print Awards. And here it is, 6:37. I'm past deadline. And Megan, are you going to be able to write your story and still make deadline? I'm wondering. I could drag it on a little longer if you want. Just kidding. Inside joke there. In the weekly 1 division for General Excellence in Print, third place goes to the Booth Bay Register. Second place goes to the York Weekly. First place goes to the Camden Herald. Judges' comments included, this is a newsy, well-written newspaper. The front pages are attractive. It has lively opinion pages and a first-rate sports section. In the weekly 2 division for General Excellence in Print, third place goes to the Courier Gazette. Second place goes to the Mount Desert Islander. And first place, the Portland Phoenix. Judges' comments included, unlike many tab-sized newspapers, this one does not overload its front page, opting to take an attractive magazine approach. The writing here is superb. Congratulations to the Portland Phoenix. Moving on to General Excellence in Print. And just to clarify ahead of time, this is the one category where daily and weekend is split apart and not combined together. So in the General Excellence in Print daily, third place goes to the Sun Journal, second place goes to the Bangor Daily News, and first place goes to the Portland Press Herald. Judges' comments included, clearly the class of this division. Front page designs are attractive and leave no doubt about the day's top story. It features a robust editorial page with local editorials and an attractive sports page. The writing ranges from professional to first rate. Congratulations to the PPH. Moving on to General Excellence in Print for weekend. Third place goes to Central Maine Sunday. Second place goes to the Bangor Daily News. First place goes to the Maine Sunday Telegram. It's stuffed with ads and sections that feature stories from staff writers in each one. The sports news pops off the page. Headlines are solid and photos are crisp. Well, as a photographer for said newspaper, I'm glad they put that in there because I like my photos like I like my potato chips, very crisp. That's really flippant to for a major award, but that's just who I am. Congratulations to the Maine Sunday Telegram for winning the General Excellence in Print weekend. And that does conclude our awards for this year. Oh wait, this is a leftover slide from last year. Yeah, 2022. I'm not kidding, Diane. If I can't do it in person, I ain't doing it again. That's the truth. So that concludes our presentation. It concludes me speaking into a void, and there will be no one happier than my kids who have been kicked off the internet for the past couple hours because I couldn't risk them taking up the bandwidth. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for putting up with me. This has been, because of the technical difficulties and the problems I had and had to rebuild the slides, I was not able to see the chat, which was really disappointing to me. And I had to operate in more of a vacuum than last year, which is saying something. So I do appreciate you putting up with the hiccups in all of the shiftless frivolity. And I really sincerely hope to see you all in Bar Harbor next fall. Thank you.